Wow. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand honneur pour moi. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What an incredible honor for me to be able to be here, to be able to see the incredible energy and the enthusiasm of this great country. Each and every one of you are passionate. You want to make a difference. You're doing your part in your local communities, here in your regions and in your country, and indeed around the world. For me, I'm sitting here on the backs of so many incredible, great Canadians. I appreciate your vision for a healthy and inclusive country powered by a strong economy where people can unleash their talent and their ability and keep innovating to be able to show what Canada has. An incredibly diverse country that is absolutely unleashed by the strength and the bridges to inclusivity. The dream of Canada is also about so many people with disabilities who actually have a chance to be a part of this society. Not just a part, but contribute. And I want to pay tribute to so many people in this room and the thousands across the country, individuals who living with challenge, who show ability, organizations that constantly work day in and day out, all to try to improve this country and to be able to make it possible for people to reach their full potential. Now, of course, I was like many Canadians as a young 15-year-old, filled with the biases about what disability meant. And then one day I was hitchhiking home from a fishing trip, got a ride in the back of a pickup truck. And that truck crashed, rolled over, broke my back, and damaged my spinal cord. And I was told I would never walk again. You can imagine in the heart of a 15-year-old how that landed in me and my world. Because I had no view of what it was like to have a spinal cord injury. I couldn't use my legs, and I sat in the hospital for months. I almost gave up hope. Fortunately, the Canadian health system, an exceptional health system, saved my life and helped set me on the path to be able to have hopes and dreams. And there's nothing more Canadian than that. For me, celebrating the 16th birthday, being able to sit up for the first time in over 2 months and be able to see the faces of my roommates, look out the window and try to have the courage to dream of a better life. It was really, really difficult. You know, for me, it was also looking at those barriers, those stereotypes that I inherited, because I thought that the wheelchair was a symbol of disability. And I had to shift that quite quickly if I was going to get back in motion again. I realized that the chair actually was a tool for liberty and potential. Push with the left arm and move to the right. Push with the right arm, move to the left. Kick it up and do some wheelies, spin up, and even learn how to dance. All of a sudden, I realized that life could continue, and it wasn't that long after that period of time that I went back home. One of the greatest challenges, going back to my small town of Williams Lake, British Columbia, and it was the most challenging moment, coming to my family filled with stairs in my home, my school. What could I do except realize that my false view of what it took to be a whole human being at the age of 15 wasn't about my complete independence, it was about learning how to be strong and interdependent, to rely on family, friends, and community, to be able to look for role models, people who had been there before me, like Stan Strong. He is a Canadian hero that no one knows all about, like so many people in this room and communities who give everything of their lives to help others. Selfless sacrifice. A peer counselor wheeled into my life with a smile on his face. And I looked at him, what are you smiling about? And I realized that he made me realize it's not what you have happened to you, it's what you do with it that count, and attitude is everything. That I saw in his life hope, possibilities, meaning, purpose, inside of pain and suffering and challenge, and I thought if he could do it, so can I. He made me realize, along with others, that nowhere in the definition of an athlete does it say you have to use your legs in order to be one. That Paralympic sport existed, There was the opportunities to use a wheelchair, to be able to sit, be propelled by my arms, my heart, and go as far as I possibly could. Stan Strong was one of those amazing mentors who not just gave, but he challenged us to think about what we could do to make a difference, not just take. My thought was, okay, if I can, maybe I can help recruit. And I actually talked to somebody who actually knew a young Canadian who just lost his leg to cancer, and he was struggling. He was really struggling, but he used to play basketball. So I called him up that night, and I said, Terry Fox, do you want to come out and play wheelchair basketball? And Terry came out to our little cable cars team, and he was inspired by Sam. He was inspired by the other athletes who were there, and he was able to ask the question, what can I do to pay it forward? We all know what Terry did. What an incredible Canadian with a great legacy who ran across this country. Yeah. And when he finished, unfortunately wasn't able to complete at Thunder Bay. What happened? Well, Canadians happened. We picked up the ball, family, friends, community, and everyone to be able to continue to move forward for his dream, and it spread around the world, and it's absolutely changed the field of cancer research as a result of one Canadian having the courage to take that first step. Absolutely. Well, for me, I took that inspiration about facing your fears, taking the first step in your sport, becoming a Paralympian, traveling the world, realizing that I wasn't the only one facing barriers. Thousands of people around the world, barriers were physical, they were attitudinal, and they didn't have to be there. And you know, just around that time, the Canadian Constitution and Charter came home. We brought our home. You and your party brought that home here to define the new Canada that we want. And you, my friends, you said people with disabilities are equal. And those are powerful words. People fought for that. Veterans, advocates, champions fought for those words. And now there was so much work to be able to translate that into the Canadian dream. And I was asked what I could do. And so what I could do was put my athletic talents as a wheelchair marathoner and a Paralympic champion and be able to start on a world journey to show what was possible, to build awareness. If barriers were removed, people with disabilities had unlimited potential. All they needed is a chance to try. What a dream. But of course, a dream needs to become a reality, and those first steps aren't exactly easy. You can imagine those well-wishers who were thinking, he won't be here for very long, and he's going to come back, and he's not going to make it. And so we left that Oak Ridge Mall with 200 people saying, well, good luck, kid. And we wheeled out, and the team was actually trying to catch up behind me, and they hit this overheight warning bar, and they went and sent someone up to the top of that bar, and you'll see in this video, instead of turning around, they actually lifted it up, got back in the truck, and they kept going right into the overpass that that bar was warning about, boxes and equipment everywhere. You can imagine the confidence of those 200 well-wishers. This guy's going around in a wheelchair. He can't get out of the parking lot. Good luck. Oh my gosh. Mon Dieu. Mon Dieu. But isn't that the way it is, right? Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. When we take those first steps in the lesson of my dear friend Terry Fox and so many other Canadians, you never know how far you go. And for me, being able to go to Europe and see those iconic moments in front of the Eiffel Tower, to be in the Soviet Union at the time in Moscow, coming through Europe and into Italy and seeing the Colosseum behind me, realizing how far we had come, and then meeting the Pope at a time when I was thinking of giving up. Little did I know that he would be dealing with Parkinson's disease and still have to learn how to adjust to still lead. And in the Elbe Bridge between Jordan and Israel at a time of war where veterans who had injured themselves worked together on common values to help a Canadian fulfill a dream and try to start a momentum and a movement that would hopefully last. It wasn't always rosy, and sometimes there was a different kind of reception, like in Australia. These guys, they didn't care. Or halfway, though, in Melbourne, Australia, 20,000 kilometers, pushing through that banner, realizing that I was halfway and I'd made it that far, and now every stroke was one stroke closer to home, and if I've done it again, I can actually keep going and make it. It was inspiring. And of course, now, 40 years to this day, I then moved into Asia and into China, and I was welcomed with incredible enthusiasm. The barrier of trying to wheel up to the highest point of the Great Wall is a memento I'll never forget. No wall's too big in life that can't be climbed. No wall's too big in life that can't be climbed. I thought that picture would be the memento for me, but the real one was this one, which is my incredible team. The people who sacrificed their lives, working in the background, putting me in the front line, helping me to be able to bring this message, knowing how grateful I was. Without them, it would be impossible. And we started a movement in China. There was an incredible response at a time when people with disabilities were embarrassments and shut-ins with no rules, no rights, just having to struggle. And millions of people from Beijing to Shanghai, and I'll never forget those moments in Tianjin where the people from everywhere showed up just to say, is it possible? Could we see, is it possible that a person with a disability has ability? Well, that happened because Pierre Elliott Trudeau befriended Deng Xiaoping, and his son had a spinal cord injury, and he was saved by Canadian life-saving medical treatment, and he saw our values. Our values. Thank you to Canada. And coming home to Canada, you know, you never know when your family how they're going to respond, and I was nervous, but boy, was I ever blown away by the response. My good friend, mon bon ami, André Vigier in Quebec, a great Paralympian, and of course in Toronto at Nathan Phillips Square, in Parliament Hill, and of course up in Centre Block in Ottawa, $1 million on behalf of Canadians that were behind you through winter. And as the cold came, -50, it was unbelievable how Canadians came out from coast to coast to coast to say, that's who we are. We're Canadians that care. People with disabilities count. And the greatest moment for me was having moments like this, to see a young boy waiting on the side of the street in the frigid cold, waiting for me to wheel by, to be able to look up and think, and I look in his eyes on that picture and I see only hope and possibility. There's no disability. If Rick can do that, imagine what I could do. I could be a politician, I could be a business leader, I could be a teacher, I could be anything. In those last few days, when the dream and reality met, hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets, BC Place, then Oak Ridge, 2 years, 2 months, 2 days, 16 million strokes, 40,000 kilometers, raising awareness, of course, raising $26 million to be able to help remove more barriers. And I'm thinking that this is it, my contribution is over. We were there, I broke through this banner, and I looked behind me and I said, what's that sign? The end is just the beginning? What kind of a crazy marketing person put that up there? I'm done, man, I'm done. And of course, he was so correct. The end was just the beginning. The tour had a small impact. We had so far to go, so much to be done. And my life had changed. My wife and I were married, 3 daughters, 5th grandson's coming up in June, and it's the greatest joy of my life, greatest privilege. Again, thank you, Canada. Merci beaucoup. But you know, sometimes your kids, they challenge you not just to give and teach, but to learn. And I was challenged by my daughters over dinner when Rick Mercer called me up and said, hey, Rick, do you want to go bungee jumping with me? And I go, oh, I don't think so. Let me think about it. So I talked to my daughters about what Rick had said, and my daughters went, come on, Dad, you can do it. So they shamed me, and I want to share with you what happened after that.
Tell me, Rick, when you're confronted with something that's terrifying you, how do you set yourself up to actually do it?
Well, first thing you do is you go into denial.
Yes, I'm there. You go denial.
All right. Then you go into a sense of studying what it is you're dealing with.
Right.
Okay, so look down.
Oh, God.
That looks very
secure.
The slip knot?
Yeah, don't be nervous until the duct tape shows up. You got the orange one, that's good.
Safety rope.
Yeah, easy to find at the bottom of the river. You don't have any skeletal joint or ligament issues, do you? Just a spinal injury? Command motion. Except it's down this time. 1, 2, 3.
Crazy.
Rick, how are you?
I can't feel my legs!
Unbelievable. Not every day seeing a guy in the wheelchair dangling over that board. Rick Hansen.
Oh man, that was crazy. I was not happy. Still cleaning the smell out of my shorts these days. Yeah, that was scary. But you know, when you go through life, it's so easy to get complacent and not stretch out, try new things, take some risks, get nervous, push out, because we have to continue to grow. And there's an interesting balance between challenge and skill. Interesting how Canada has grown since the Man in Motion Tour, where the mayor of the city of Vancouver, a quadriplegic, was able to actually go to Torino and to receive the Olympic flag on behalf of Canada, who had won the Olympic and Paralympic Games bid. And he modified his power chair and spun around and flew that flag like any big city mayor, and we didn't have to say one thing about how far this country had come in our values and our opportunities. Sam Sullivan helped us prepare for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and that's why I was so honored to be able to bring the Olympic flame in to help start those games, to welcome billions of people around the world to our games. One class of people, one class of people. And you know, the World Health Organization says there's 1.3 billion people living with disabilities today in our world. And of course, the world is smaller and more connected. So it inspires us to think about how we can create movements where what we do here locally can truly change the world, and we don't have to wheel around the world to do it. We can connect with leaders like Christopher Reeve and all the things that he represented. Muhammad Ali, whose best work was in not the ring, but afterward dealing with Parkinson's. Or Stephen Hawking, who showed us that everything is possible with every breath if we find a way. Michael J. Fox, unbelievable, his humor, dignity, his power and determination, and his advocacy. A husband, a father, an actor. Chantal Petitclerc, what an amazing champion, a great athlete, and now a senator in our great Senate, and she shows the way. Thousands of people are doing this great work, but you know, even in spite of our progress, nearly half of our human rights lawsuits are related to disability. And that tells us we've got more work to do, because those are one-offs and it's a system thing. And people with disabilities are more than twice as likely to be able to live in poverty, to face social isolation, and to be able to think about ways to be able to do that. Now, how did we do it? How did you do it? You brought forward the Accessible Canada Act in 2019, and you actually focused on key things like transportation, communication, employment, the built environment, and it wouldn't be possible without leaders in Parliament, in Cabinet, and one particular leader I'd like to recognize is former Cabinet Minister Carla Quattro, who brought that forward. And Carla, where are you? Where are you? Stand up. There she is, right over there. Carla, thank you so much for your leadership. Carla, you've shown ability. You have a challenge with your vision. You're a lawyer. You are a parliamentarian. You are a former Paralympian who's absolutely been exceptional, and you continue to move forward every single day. The Canada Disability Benefit Act, to be able to help people who are the poorest of poor, people with disabilities, to be able to actually have that a great start that needs to be built on. And of course, 27% of Canadians have a disability. And that's expected to rise dramatically with aging boomers. We need to make sure we pave the way so boomers, people with disabilities, are actually in play. And this isn't just a charitable issue or a social justice. This is an economic imperative. Improvements in the workplace can actually help 550,000 people work more hours those with disabilities. $316 billion of consumer spending annually ready if we make things accessible. $17.5 billion to the GDP. And, of course, $4 billion of tax revenue. And let's not forget about saving the costs of removing those unintended barriers. The lost opportunity, the energy, the expense. Innovations, well, they work for everybody, don't they? You know, we don't think about it. The door lever, well, that was built for a quadriplegic, and now it's good for everybody, even my dog. What about the electric toothbrush? What about the keyboard for someone who is blind? What about audiobooks and Siri, voice technology that was built for everyone now? You know, so we are your friends, your family, your co-owners and business owners, and you're actually co-workers and your people who are constituents, taxpayers, voters. What a powerful force. And everyone, this is the only field that everyone eventually joins. And so we need to know that in spite of our progress, it's going to take all of us to pick up the pace to be there by 2040. This is the commitment of the Accessible Canada Act. We have to remove all barriers and create enabling policies. And of course, the built environment is the one thing that we build for people that's tangible. And if we break through with common standards, if we break through to drive, you know, past minimum standards into innovation, if we actually measure, if we actually have examples like thinking about places like CN Tower or Center Block or the Cowbell Brewing Company or any of the housing opportunities, you know, inside or outside, that actually show us that it's not expensive, it's actually easy if we figure out how to do it, to build Canada strong, but build Canada right with no barriers. And it's the most ambitious housing building objective in the history since World War II, and we can't build in barriers. So for all of us, I want to call to action, especially youth, because we need to be able to make this possible. We need to make this possible. We need to be smart. And you know, youth, in their values of social justice and inclusivity, we need to see the issue of accessibility inside of that so they can take action. And I see this image of an accessible and inclusive group of young women. And then, of course, Emily in the wheelchair demonstrates that, right? But you look closer, someone who has a hearing challenge, someone who has low vision, someone dealing with depression and anxiety, someone with cancer, someone with diabetes. And you don't see those, but they are equally as important. But what you really see is a sorority of friends together, treating each other as equals, having fun, participating equally. And isn't that what we want? And of course, then when we spot barriers, we just remove them. We create a world where everyone can go everywhere. And my vision is to see the seamless opportunity in the future, where it's normal, it's done. And a person who's blind can be the first person to come into work, be a top performer, and turn the lights on for everybody. Or you can have that first date at a restaurant, or be in the trades, or being able to be an athlete and just an athlete, or in the playground. And of course, when I see youth, I'm always inspired by their insight, their questions. And there's one question that always comes up. Rick, if you had a choice to go back all those years ago when you were hitchhiking on the side of the road, would you decide to get in the back of the pickup truck or not? Would you give up your life for the use of your legs? What a question. Incredible. So a few years ago, I went back to the side of that road, and I just sat there, and I looked on the other side of the road where we'd crashed and where the horror of that moment happened. And of course, I was reminded of my answer in spades. In spite of that remembering of the trauma, what I remembered is all the opportunities of the life that I've lived since then. And that life was so important. The definition of life is not defined by one's legs. It's not defined by anything except your heart, your sense of belonging, love, connection, family, purpose, the ability to make a difference. I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. I would never trade my life for the use of the legs. I feel like my best work is in front, and it's because of you. Let's not give up on Canada. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Let's keep going. Anything is possible. Continuez. Tout est possible. Merci beaucoup.